you all so much for joining Lolita's Corner. I'm always glad to come on the show, bring you good information, have fun, laughter. Listen, it's topics for everyday people that, hey, we don't get to talk about. Some people do, some people don't. I am so excited tonight, guys. Keep up with me at crumenterprises.com. Find me on Instagram. Crumb is me. Listen, I'm gonna dive right in because we have a great guest on tonight. He is actually on location, so we ask that you appreciate the fact that he took the time out to come. There is noise in the background because he's doing the awesome work that he does. And I welcome the awesome Marlon Chamberlain to the show. Welcome to Lolita's Corner. I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you for having me.
Yes, you look well. You've been doing well.
I've been doing well. No
That's what's
complaints.
up. I am honored to have you on the show. I think about how the world goes back in a circle because you and I have known each other since we were young teeter box babies, little young children in elementary school, and look how God would have it that almost 30 years later we reconnect and we have kindred hearts, kindred spirits, supporting the community, doing awesome work in the community. Who'd have thought third, fourth, and fifth graders would come back 30 years later and connect? It's bananas. It's crazy to me.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Abs-
Some of your friends is like, where you find Marlon at?
Absolutely.
Definitely. So listen, you are definitely involved with felony free, I mean fully free.
hmm
Um, what is fully free? What is it about?
So, Fully Free is a statewide campaign to end all permanent punishments for people after incarceration, and permanent punishments really it's collateral consequences. So, nationally, there are over 70,000 collateral consequences that people face after incarceration. Specifically, Illinois, there are hundreds of collateral consequences that people face after incarceration. We decided to call them permanent punishments because collateral suggests that these sort of laws were accidentally like put in place, and we don't believe that they were accidentally sort of like put into place. And so we decided to call them what they are, which is this permanent sort of like prison after the prison of like
Mm.
after incarceration. It's almost like you've been sentenced to a life sentence because there are, like I said, hundreds of laws that create barriers for people after they've completed their sentence.
Wow. What would be some of those laws? I like what you said, even though it's not. You said it's like a prison after prison.
The prison after the prison. Yep, and some of these laws you would be surprised. Like right now in the state of Illinois, if you've been convicted of a felony, of any felony, you are restricted from being the executor or administrator over your family member's estate. And so, an example would be my father passed away in March. I'm next of kin, but because of my background, I wasn't able to act as his executor or administrator over his will.
Wow.
Yep, yep, yep.
That's crazy.
Yep. And then another example would be I've been home now for almost 10 years. My conviction is over 20 something years. And my son, who is now in second grade, as he finished up his first grade year in school, his teachers asked me to chaperone him and his classmates on a bowling trip. And of course, I said yes. And when they ran the background check, I was denied this opportunity to chaperone my son and his friends because of an old conviction. And so I had to explain to my 7 year old son why, even though I've been home, he has no recollection of me being in prison or anything. I had to explain to him because of what something that happened years ago. I was unable to participate and to support him on a bowling trip, on a school bowling trip.
Right, right. And I think that if you have paid your debt to society, you should not still have to go through things. You've paid your debt. So if I've paid my debt, I've did what I was supposed to do. I accepted, whether it's responsibility, accountability, did what the government, whatever it is. I am now out here to do what I need to do. Why are you holding me up? That is just that's crazy to me.
Absolutely. And there are hundreds of laws. I would say that the major sort of categories of where we see the most permanent punishments is around employment, housing, and educational opportunities, which are the main three things that people need to stabilize themselves. You need a place to live in order to work a job, and you need a job to be able to pay the rent or mortgage. And then
Right.
if you try to improve yourself by going back to school, and they block you there, then how are you supposed to sort of move forward when every time you try, there's all of these barriers that are basically rejecting you.
Exactly. And you know what I find that because of those particular barriers, we find a high rate of robbery. We find a high rate of returning back to the prison system. We find a high rate of people struggling with mental health issues. So it's to me it's like a mouse in a spinning in a wheel, a hamster going
Absolutely.
in circles, and no one really wants to talk about it. What is your thoughts now? I know there's a lot of changes happening and occurring, and I think about what incarceration and reentry, right?
Hmm.
Reentry is reentering back into society. Am I correct?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think about it 10 years ago versus 15 years ago versus now. Is there a difference? And if so, what are some of those differences?
Yeah, I would say there's definitely a difference. I think back then, 10, 15, 20 years ago, like you didn't hear people talk about reentry or mass incarceration. I mean, you would hear some people talk about it, but it wasn't as sexy as it is now, I would say.
Okay.
uh, Now this is sort of like the over dinner conversation, because there are over our data estimated that there are over 3.3 million people currently living in the state of Illinois that have an arrest or conviction record, and so that's a lot of people.
That's a
And
lot of people.
and so, as people sort of transition from incarceration back to the community, like you have to have resources and opportunities for people to transition. And so, I think back then there were a lack of resources, even though there's still a lack of resources. I think back in like 10 or 15 to 20 years ago, there were maybe a couple organizations that were around to service this particular sort of demographic of people, but now there are more services available to people as they transition, but there's still a huge gap in how we serve people and how we set people up for success. So in some ways I would say things have gotten better, in a sense of just really like just people even just beginning to think about, like, 80, I forgot what the percentage is, but I think it's close to like 90% of the individuals who are currently incarcerated are coming home. They're coming
Yeah.
home. And so
Yeah.
now people are starting to think about, like, wow, we need to set up systems and processes so that we can support people in a more impactful way.
That's the key, in an impactful way, not
Absolutely.
just giving them a number, sitting them to the side, and not servicing them. And I think of people that I've known that have been in that situation. I have a very close friend that was in the situation, and reality is it took them about 5 to 6 years to really get on their feet, get a job, get a car. It's like crazy, right? And I watched that up close. And a lot of people who don't really walk with somebody who have come out of incarceration really cannot speak to it or talk about it. And I just listen to people speculate and spectate on what that is. But you've been confined for some time, and to now come out, there's an adjustment period.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Yeah, absolutely. I can remember when I first came home after serving 10 and a half years in prison. And this is a small example, but just to your point,
mhm,
we went on a trip to Kmart, and I was sitting in Kmart looking at all of the different brands of toothpaste. And in prison, there's only maybe one or two sort of brands that you can choose from. So now here it is, there are hundreds of different kinds of toothpaste. It gave me a headache because
Right.
I didn't know like which one should I pick. Like it was just a lot of choices and I wasn't used to that. And now I laugh at that, but at that point in time, like I was frustrated.
Frustrated. Yep.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm
Yep.
thankful because I had a great support system that was really supporting me. But to your point, I think that you made earlier about like how do people end up going back to prison, is that when you keep having these instances where you're either rejected, you're frustrated because of what's happening to you as you transition out, sooner or later a person breaks and they just say, you know
Mhm.
what, I'm just going to go back. It was easy for me to just go back versus me
That's
saying, how do I push through all of sort of like these like microaggressions that are happening? Like, how do I push through that without breaking?
That's true. And you said something really important about a support system. I tell people all the time a support system is good in anything, whether it's coming out of prison, having a baby, writing a book. Support means a lot to a lot of people. And I know that my grandfather supported people that you would least expect, but I so respect him the more that you and I have been connecting. And some of our other people, I know that Aaron Smith was on the show a few months back, so you're connected with him. And I just think about how powerful you guys' stories is because now you are around Illinois on a whole campaign and you were incarcerated and it's a job, right? So it's like work for
Absolutely,
you, right? So,
absolutely.
talk about it from that perspective. I know you had shared with me a few weeks back, we were having a conversation and you were saying how employment can be hard, for some people when they come out, but they can also take what they've been through and it becomes a part of them and it becomes part of the work that they do. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, when I first came home, I started a painting business. Like I didn't want to go through the process of filling out applications and being rejected, so I started a painting company, and I was able to hire directly impacted people who were in the halfway house. How I got connected to this work was I started volunteering everywhere. So I would volunteer at different organizations, and what happened was people saw me showing up everywhere, and they started asking, like, "Well, who do you work for?" And I was like, "I work for myself." And so somebody, the Community Renewal Society, offered me a position where they were able to train me as an organizer, and the rest was history for me.
Mhm.
And now I get paid. Really, I get paid to utilize my expertise in knowing the system and also knowing how to engage other directly impacted individuals and really being able to develop them as leaders because uh, Glenn Martin, who's the founder of Just Leadership, which is a national organization, has a quote that says, "Those of us that are closest to the solutions are furthest away from the resources and power to make something happen." And so now we're shifting that narrative where we're trying to empower and employ people who have been in the system to now turn around and to help create a system that is more supportive, that creates opportunity. So yes, I get to travel the state. I love what I do. I get to build relationships with people, which is definitely something that I value. So I love what I do.
I know you do, and you ready to smile when you said it. And along the way in that process, right? You've gotten married and had kids, right?
Yep, yep. I'm married, a homeowner. I'm a college student, and 9 years of me being home.
Hey, you can do it. What would you say to like encourage somebody that's in that situation, either have just gotten home or have been home for a while or been home a long time and they have made some strides but have found themselves maybe stuck. I know fear is something that is very heavy.
Absolutely. I mean, I would go back to something you said, the support system. And within that support system, I would first tell individuals who are coming out of incarceration or even just struggling as a formerly incarcerated person is think about what you want to do. Like if you had an opportunity to choose like your dream job, like what would that be? And then seek out people who can help you begin to create goals to where you can actually accomplish like or be what it is you want to be. Like I've met thousands of formerly incarcerated people, Aaron Smith being one of them, who is doing all type of stuff.
Oh,
Uh,
listen. Ran into me in the streets on the corner doing stuff.
but absolutely,
Yes,
so I know people who have their doctorates, master's degrees, they
yes,
own businesses.
they
So
do.
I would encourage people to figure out what it is that you want to do, and then start connecting with like-minded folks that can help you begin to create a plan that will lead you towards your dream job or goal.
That's true. And you said something powerful, connecting and the support system. But I also say make a decision
Absolutely,
to do that. You're definitely going to have to make that decision. You cannot continue to complain and fuss and take the complaining and fussing and put it to work, right?
Ab-
And be a
absolutely.
counselor to somebody else or something in that, in that particular area. So look, I found out that Felony Free had even been down in Georgia. You've been in Georgia and Minnesota. Where y'all been?
So yes, so fully free wasn't necessarily in Georgia, but
Okay,
me and some of my sort of like colleagues, we were in Georgia last year to help with the Senate race that was happening in Georgia, and we were there to help. We created a voter turnout program for directly impacted people. So we
okay.
were able to hire 85 people across the state of Georgia as canvassers. We also registered, I forgot what the number of folks that were registered to vote, but basically we were out in the communities encouraging folks that were directly impacted to show up and vote. And it wasn't about sort of like trying to persuade them to vote either way. It was just really sort of emphasizing the importance of
Importance
our
of it.
votes, our voice. Like our voice has to be represented as we think about like policy and who's elected and who's not.
That's true. And that's real key. And I'm not gonna get on that because that'll take me all night for 3 hours because I just don't understand how you don't vote. You complain, you fuss, but you don't vote. You complain, you fuss, but you don't go to a community meeting. You complain, you fuss, but you don't go to the alderman's meeting who is have legally having them every month. You ooh, let me calm down. That gets me fired up. I'm
Yeah,
telling you.
yeah, yeah. I always tell people get in the game. You can't stand on the
Get
sidelines and complain. Like if you don't like what's happening, get in the game and
Get
change
in the
it.
game. Get in the
Yep,
game. You have to get in the game. You have to know what's going on, what's happening. And a lot of people don't. They don't even want to do a block club. But you're complaining about the trash on the block. Like, okay. But anywho, back to you.
yeah,
But I mean, all of that plays a part, and it's really, really important because we definitely have to think about that. And I think about people, even now when they talk about incarceration, sometimes the thought process and the perspectives is always the negative. There is some positive. It's positive on this video podcast tonight. Like,
absolutely.
you have found purpose after incarceration. There are people making strides and doing big moves. Everybody quit calling them a bum, okay, because they're not a bum. They've did what they needed to do to society. Be able to help somebody, allow them a opportunity to get out and do some things. What are some resources that are out there? Because some people don't know what's out there. I know right now the big thing. I know there's some R3 funding. What is R3 funding? What are some things that multiple organizations are working on? I know you and I work together for an expungement,
Yep,
the stealing to help people,
yep,
have their record removed to be able to provide for their families, be able to get records removed. I know we serviced over 50, 60 people last time we were together.
yeah, yeah. I would also say so. Some of the work that I've done as it pertains to policy, since I've sort of been involved in this work, we've worked to pass, I think, 12 bills that either create opportunities or remove barriers for people after incarceration. And one of the bills was the ceiling expansion bill, which expanded the number of convictions that could be eligible for ceiling. And so people can go out after a 3 year waiting period. You can go out and have your record sealed if you're not able to have it expunged. I would also say in East St. Louis today, and part of like the workshop that we did in East St. Louis was we had the director of the Justice Equity Opportunity Office, the director Jacob Delaney, come out to talk about the R3 funding and what the application process will look like. So there are resources available. People just have to connect and plug in to people who are aware of these resources and learn more about them so that they're able to access these resources and to move forward. And as you said, change the quality of their life.
That's it. Change the quality of their life. And when I think about some of the programs that are out there, I have found that they're definitely looking to expunge a lot of marijuana charges because
Mhm.
of this whole legalization of cannabis and things of that nature.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, the with the passing of the R3 funding included in that was like there are certain, I think, class 4 convictions or anything related to cannabis could be just automatically wiped off your record. And I would also just say too, you talked about just like the sort of negative stigmas that people have about people who've been incarcerated. So the recidivism rate is around 42, 43%. But
Mm,
there's a huge percentage of folks that have come home, that have stayed home, that we don't hear about.
that's it.
So let's talk about the people like myself and the Aaron's and the thousands of other people that have come home that are doing well that we hear nothing about.
Nothing about. Listen, I have a buddy. He home. He's one of the coldest barbers in the city of Chicago. Listen, he cutting hair at 5 in the morning. I'm like, who doing that? Listen,
Switch
cutting hair.
hustles,
Listen,
switch hustles. That's what Aaron podcast is
listen.
about.
Switch hustles.
Switch the hustle. We still got to eat.
That's it. That's it. That's it. And the Aaron Smith we're talking about, he came on the show. He has Escaping the Odds podcast. These are some of my favorite guys, y'all. So don't play with me because just because they out, you get them bows. Now,
Yeah.
listen, I am excited to just see that there are resources and things being done to help those that have been incarcerated. My biggest concern about this is that the community needs to be more aware of it,
Hmm.
and the community needs to come out. So when
Hmm.
you're seeing these flyers or you're seeing these pluggers on social media, people aren't just doing it to make a dollar or to get information. Some of this people need. Somebody
Absolutely.
just shared with me today that they had a resource that they had shared for everybody else, but they wind up being able to use the resource and it was able to help them. And now their rent was like paid for like 6 months, right? Everybody else rent was getting paid. Now they were able to be blessed by it. And that's awesome because sharing the information is what's needed.
Yep. Yep.
We
Absolutely.
don't share anything. Oh, we seen on such and such page that they were doing this. Did you share it? You don't know who on your page needs the information. Like we did an expungement event, and I had a couple of people that came, and I was like, "You got a record?" They was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, I did some crazy stuff like 15 years ago, Miss Cleveland." I was like, "Oh, okay." I said,
Yep.
"I knew you was a little crazy, right?" And we laughed about it, but they were able to be blessed and be
Hmm.
able to get the things that they needed done, and that, hey, that's what it's about.
Yeah, and that's what the Fully Free campaign is about. So we have 4 sort of core goals
Okay.
that we're sort of like naming, and one is we want to activate and educate directly impacted people across the state. Like, do you know that you can vote as soon as you come out the system? Like, we want to educate people around like what resources are available to really activate them to get more involved in like civic engagement. The second goal is we want to lift up the stories of directly impacted people so that we can change the narrative around how people see us. And then the third goal is we want to eliminate policy that creates these barriers after incarceration. And then the last goal is creating a network, a statewide network, so we can do exactly what you just said. Well, we have a space to where, regardless of what you want to do, we have somebody that can help you do it.
That's it. And listen, I love those goals and I love resources because I call myself the global connector. If you know me, look, you ask me a question. Well, hold on, let me think about it. I may know somebody that I can to refer you to. So how can the people find you?
So, first, you can go to our website at fullyfree.org and please sign up to receive campaign updates and action alerts. You can also reach me. My email address is mchamberlain, CHAMBERLAIN, at heartlandalliance.org.
Cool beans. Listen, get connected. Hey, if you have a cousin that's still in and you need to be fighting for them, get connected to these resources to be able to do some things for that. So there's some halfway houses out there. There's some programs for expungement and sealing. Are there some housing programs?
So there are housing programs. It just depends. The stipulations are different depending on like just convictions and a lot of other like scenarios.
Okay,
But I think you said it. Like there is value in relationships, and it's also called social capital. So even just being connected and building relationships could lead to resources.
that's true.
It's not.
That's
It's
true.
That's how you and I reconnected. Through we both are networkers.
Both networkers, both networkers. I'm like, Marlon, what you doing, right? So it and it's good, to definitely have that. Listen, it has been a joy to have you on. Anytime I'm around you, I am inspired to keep on continuing to do what I do in the community and the resources. We definitely want the people to get connected. It's a great campaign for the state of Illinois. We believe that it's definitely going to grow into other places and other dimensions.
Let's
Thank you
do
so
it.
much. I know you are on location, y'all. He been out with Fully Free today down in East St. Louis. We are not going to keep him because he still has to get home to his lovely family. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
If
you for
any,
having me.
yes, if it's any one thing you want to say to the people before we leave,
Get connected, plug in, get in the game.
hey, get connected, plug in, get in the game. I'll see you guys next week on Thursday. Have a great week.